The first page slid out of the scanner with a soft, mechanical sigh, and for a second I thought it was another school flyer. Our home office was a dumping ground for paper. Permission slips, soccer schedules, the occasional letter from the bank that my wife, Lauren, swore she'd handle later. The scanner sat on a side table under a framed photo of our kids at the beach, the four of us squinting into the sun like nothing in the world could touch us. I was 56 years old, and I had believed in that photo. Then I read the header. Step-parent adoption inquiry, initial petition. My hands went cold. The testament steps through the way, not of the petition. My hands went cold, the step-parent adoption. The truth that I had to stain the proofed back the weigh-in was, they finally people to see ability, and then my littering 200 in the petition, and setting Glod's attention to the truth that they would be peer. My hands went cold, the step-parent adoption inquiry. My hands went cold, the place was no included Mr. Purity. My hands went cold, love these beautifuls. I thought I proved the market is mart, the priviling of the indition can be living. My hands went cold, love these midderies. I said that they showed up to the other professor. My hands went cold, love these midderies. I said that they had know they want and prove it. My hands went cold, love these midderies. 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 My hands went cold, love these mitteries. 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 My hands went cold, love these midderies. 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 As I lifted it closer to the lamp, underneath the title, in bold, Child, Ethan Carver, Dobor, 4th 12th 2012. My son. I stared until the letters blurred, then blinked hard and read it again. Ethan was 12. He still left his socks in the hallway like landmines. He still asked me to check under the bed when thunderstorms rattled the windows. He was still a kid who called me Dad without thinking about what the word meant. A second page followed the first. Prospective adoptive parent, Andrew Drew Halstead. I didn't know an Andrew Halstead. A third page slid out. Consent of parent, required. And there at the bottom was a signature line with my printed name typed neatly above it. Michael James Carver. My signature was already there. A clean cursive loop that looked like mine at a glance, the way a fake 100 looks real until you hold it up to the light. I live in a quiet neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio, in the same two-story house Lauren and I bought 15 years ago, back when we used words like forever without irony. I worked in operations management for a logistics company for most of my life. Unsexy work, practical work, the kind where you learn that a plan is only as good as the paperwork behind it. A few years ago, after a health scare, I stepped into a consulting role instead. Less travel, more time at home, more time for the kids, more time to notice the cracks. I flipped the packet back to the first page. The letterhead belonged to a family law office in the city, Eastbridge Family Law. The document looked like a draft, something printed to be reviewed, but it was real enough to tell me one thing. Lauren had been planning something big. I stared at Drew Halstead's name. The front door opened downstairs. Keys clinked in the bowl by the entryway. Lauren's voice floated up. "Kids! Shoes off at the door. I'm not vacuuming tonight." Ethan's footsteps pounded on the stairs, his backpack thudding against the wall as he passed the office door on the way to his room. "Hey, Dad," he called, barely slowing down. "Hey," I answered, and my voice sounded normal. That scared me more than if it had cracked. Lauren came up a minute later, tote bag on her shoulder, hair pulled into a loose bun like she'd been at yoga. She paused when she saw me standing by the desk. "You're home early," she said, eyes flicking to the papers. I didn't move. The scanner spit these out. For a fraction of a second, something flashed across her face. Shock, annoyance, calculation. Then it smoothed into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh," she said lightly. "Those. It's nothing, just an information packet. An information packet about adopting my son." My mouth tasted like metal. "Who is Drew Halstead?" Lauren set her tote down carefully, too carefully, and crossed her arms. "A friend." A friend, I repeated. Mike, she sighed, like I'd asked her to explain something obvious. Don't make this into a scene. A scene? My voice stayed quiet, but I felt something hard forming in my chest. My signature is on this. It's a draft, she snapped. A template. Calm down. I picked up the consent page and held it up. That's my name and a signature that looks like mine. If this goes anywhere, it becomes a problem. Lauren's eyes narrowed. You always do this. You always assume I'm doing something wrong. I'm holding papers that say someone else is trying to adopt Ethan. She took one step closer, lowering her voice. It's a precaution. Against what? She hesitated, just long enough. Against instability, she said. The word hit like a slap. Instability. Me. I thought about the last 2 years, how Lauren had started using phrases she'd never used before. Emotional safety, co-parenting boundaries, healthy transitions. Words that sounded like therapy and Instagram captions. Words that made any disagreement feel like a diagnosis. I set the pages down and looked at her. Tell me the truth. Lauren's gaze slid away. The truth is, you've been difficult. I stared. Difficult? You're always watching the accounts, she said, irritation rising. Asking questions, making me feel like I need permission. I almost laughed. I almost cried. Because I pay the bills. There you go. She pointed at me like I'd proved her point. Money. That's all you think about. No, I said. It's not all I think about. It's what I handle because you told me to handle it. Lauren shook her head as if she was the exhausted adult and I was the unreasonable teenager. We don't have time for this. Thanksgiving is next week. I'm trying to keep the kids' lives stable. Stable, I echoed. By letting a stranger adopt Ethan. He's not a stranger, Lauren snapped. And it's not adoption, it's... Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at it, thumb moving quickly, then looked back at me. I'm done with this conversation, she said. If you want to talk to the mediator. Then she walked out, leaving the packet on the desk like it was a harmless brochure. I stood in the office, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall. That was the moment I understood something with painful clarity. Lauren wasn't afraid of a fight. She was afraid of losing control of the story. I didn't confront her again that night. I kissed Chloe goodnight. I helped Ethan with a math worksheet. I loaded the dishwasher while Lauren scrolled on her phone on the couch, occasionally smiling at something that wasn't me. When everyone went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and opened our joint accounts. I told myself I was looking for context. I was really looking for the truth that the adoption packet had already revealed. The account history loaded slowly, like it was reluctant to show me. Then the pattern snapped into focus. Legal fees. Small at first, then larger. East Bridge Consult, $350. East Bridge Retainer, $2,500. A background check service. A child custody evaluator deposit. And then, tucked between grocery charges and the mortgage payment, something that made my stomach drop. Drew H. Zell, $1,200. Drew H. Zell, $1,200. Drew H. Zell, $1,200. Monthly, for 6 months. I clicked into our credit monitoring dashboard. A new account glowed at the top like a warning light. Home equity line of credit, opened 3 months ago. Authorized signature, Michael J. Carver. I didn't remember opening it because I hadn't. I pulled the opening documents. My name, our address, a digital signature. The date matched a week I'd been in Chicago for a project kickoff, living out of a hotel room and FaceTiming my kids at night. Lauren had opened credit against our house while I was away, and now she was preparing to hand my son to another man on paper. I sat back in the chair and stared at the kitchen wall where Chloe's artwork was taped up. Crayon hearts, stick figures, a drawing of our dog wearing a crown. My throat tightened. This wasn't a marriage drifting apart. This was a hostile takeover. My phone buzzed. A message from Lauren, even though she was upstairs. "This Thanksgiving will be just family at my sister's. You're not coming. Please don't embarrass Ethan with drama." A second message appeared immediately after. "You haven't earned a place at that table this year." Earned. Table. As if fatherhood was a membership she could revoke. I stared at the screen until the anger settled into something colder. I typed one sentence. "Understood. Effective tonight, I'm canceling all automatic payments that fund your lifestyle. Child expenses will be paid directly. All communication goes through attorneys." I hit send. Then I opened my banking app and looked at the recurring payments list. Really looked. Mortgage autopay. Lauren's SUV lease. Lauren's credit card autopay. The country club membership she insisted was for client dinners. Streaming packages, housekeeper. A wellness studio membership. Autopay for her boutique clothing store card. The total made my jaw tighten. $8,970 every month. I started canceling. One by one, like turning off lights in a house that had been wasting electricity for years. I didn't cancel the mortgage. I moved it to manual pay from an account only I controlled. I didn't cancel Ethan and Chloe's school fees. I set up direct payment through a new account and removed Lauren's access. Everything else? Canceled. By the time I finished, my phone showed 41 missed calls. Then 62. Then 95. Lauren. Her sister Kendra. My mother-in-law. Numbers I didn't recognize. I set the phone face up on the table and watched it light up silently while the coffee maker ticked as it cooled. At 1:12 a.m., Lauren came downstairs in a robe, eyes wild. "What did you do?" she hissed. I kept my voice calm. "I stopped paying for things I'm no longer invited to be part of." "You can't just cut me off," she said, and her anger sounded like fear. "I can," I replied, and I did. Lauren's breath came fast. "This is financial abuse." I looked at her. Forging my signature on a HELOC is fraud. Her face went blank for half a second, then tightened. "You have no proof." "I have documents," I said, "and now I have a lawyer." Lauren's eyes narrowed. "You're making this ugly." "You made it ugly when you printed adoption papers with my forged consent," I said. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me, maybe because she'd gotten used to a version of me that apologized for holding boundaries. Then she smiled, slow and deliberate. "If you want ugly," she said softly, "I'll show you ugly." She turned and walked back upstairs, leaving me alone with the silence and the flashing phone. The ugly arrived before sunrise. At 6:14 a.m., my phone chimed with an email notification from Ethan's school portal. Subject: Authorized pickup list updated. For a second, I thought it was a routine reminder. Then I opened it and saw the name, Andrew Halstead. Authorized adult pickup, effective immediately. My fingers went numb. I logged into the portal on my laptop, heart thudding, and navigated to the emergency contacts and pickup list. There he was, Drew Halstead, added beneath Lauren's sister and above my brother. Lauren hadn't just printed papers. She was moving pieces on the board. I walked upstairs and stood outside Lauren's bedroom door, listening. Silence. She was still asleep, or pretending to be. I didn't go in. Instead, I took screenshots, every page, every change timestamp, every confirmation email, and saved them to a folder titled Evidence. Then I called the school. The receptionist answered with a cheerful voice that made me want to scream. "Hi, Maple Ridge Middle School. How can I help you?" "This is Michael Carver," I said, keeping my tone flat. "I need to remove an unauthorized adult from my son's pickup list, immediately." A pause. Keyboard clicks. "Mr. Carver, I see the update. It was submitted last night from a verified parent account." "It was not authorized by me," I said. I'm Ethan's father. That person is not family. I understand, she said, voice shifting into careful policy mode. But changes require approval from the primary account holder or documentation. Then I'll bring documentation, I said. Today. At 7:05, Lauren came downstairs in leggings and a hoodie, hair messy, phone in hand. She stopped when she saw me at the table with the laptop open. You're up early, she said. So are you, I replied. Her eyes narrowed at the screen. What are you doing now? I got an email from Ethan's school, I said. You added Drew to the pickup list. Lauren's face stayed blank. So? So you don't get to do that without me, I said. Lauren shrugged, casual. He's a safe adult. He's not an adult in our family, I said. Lauren's jaw tightened. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I stood. I'm going to the school. Lauren's smile returned, small and cold. If you show up at the school and embarrass Ethan, that's on you. Then she lifted her phone slightly, the camera lens pointed at me. You see? She said loudly, as if someone else was in the room. This is what I deal with. I froze, not from fear but from recognition. She was recording, creating footage, collecting moments. I lowered my voice. Put the phone down. Lauren's eyes brightened with something that wasn't sadness. Why? Are you going to yell? Give me something to show the judge? My chest tightened. I could feel anger pushing against my ribs, begging for release. I didn't give it what it wanted. I stepped back, hands open. I'm not doing this, I said. Lauren's voice rose. Don't walk away from me. Stop intimidating me. I turned and walked into the hallway, away from the camera, away from the performance. Behind me, Lauren's voice changed, quickly, like a stage cue. Ethan, she called sweetly. Honey, can you come down? I need you. I stopped cold. I waited just long enough to hear Ethan's footsteps on the stairs, hesitant. Then I kept walking, out the front door, into the cold morning air, where my breath came out in visible puffs and the world felt painfully real. Across the street, a car sat parked at the curb with dark windows. The engine was running. I didn't know it was Drew yet. I only knew someone was watching. At Maple Ridge, the principal met me in her office with a counselor present. I slid the adoption packet across the desk first, then the school portal screenshots. I'm not asking you to choose sides, I said. I'm asking you to protect my child from being used in a legal situation. The principal's mouth tightened as she read the header. Step-parent adoption while you're married? Yes, I said, and my consent was forged. The counselor exhaled quietly. Has Ethan been approached? Not directly, I said, but he's being told things. The principal nodded. We can temporarily restrict pickups to parents only until we receive court documentation, she said, and we can flag any attempted change. Thank you, I said, and the words felt too small for the relief in my chest. As I left the building, my phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. You're harassing the school now. I'm documenting everything. I didn't respond. At noon, when I returned home, the neighbor, Mr. Dempsey, waved me over from his driveway. He was retired, the kind of guy who watered his lawn like it was a sacred duty. We weren't friends exactly, we were polite, that's all. But his face looked uncomfortable, like he'd been holding something in his hands that didn't belong to him. Mike, he said quietly, I don't want to get involved, but my camera caught something. He pulled out his phone and showed me a video from his doorbell cam. It was my front yard from that morning, me leaving, shoulders tight, walking fast. And across the street, the parked car. The driver's side window rolled down slightly. A man leaned out with a phone raised, recording. Then the clip zoomed just enough to catch his face. I didn't know him from memory, but I recognized him from the adoption packet signature block. Drew Halstead. Mr. Dempsey swallowed. He sat there for 20 minutes, he said, like he was waiting for something, waiting for me to explode, waiting for Lauren to capture her scene. I felt my stomach turn, then settle. This wasn't chaos. It was choreography. "Can you send me that?" I asked. Mr. Dempsey nodded, already texting it. "Yeah," he said. "I'm sorry, man." "So am I," I replied, and I meant it in a way he couldn't possibly understand. That afternoon, 2 police officers knocked on my door. "Welfare check," they said. "Anonymous report of a domestic disturbance and children in distress." Lauren stood behind me in the hallway, one hand resting lightly on Chloe's shoulder, her face arranged into concern. Ethan hovered near the stairs, eyes wide. I stepped onto the porch, keeping my voice calm. "Officers," I said, "the kids are fine. You're welcome to look around." One officer glanced past me at the kids, then back. "Sir, do you have any weapons in the home?" "I have a locked safe," I said. "No one has access but me. You're welcome to note that I'm cooperating." The officer nodded. The other wrote something on a pad. They asked a few questions. They spoke briefly to Ethan and Chloe separately, with me in sight. Ethan looked at me once, like he was checking whether I would fall apart. I didn't. After 10 minutes, the officers left with polite, restrained expressions, the look of people who knew they were being pulled into someone else's story. As their car pulled away, Lauren exhaled dramatically. "See?" she whispered to Ethan, loud enough for me to hear. "This is why I need protection." Ethan's eyes flicked to me again, and I understood the real stakes. Lauren didn't just want to win a divorce. She wanted to rewrite the kid's memory of who I was. So I went back to the table, opened my laptop, and made the call I'd been avoiding, because this wasn't something you handled with patience. This was something you handled with a professional. At 8 a.m. the next morning, I called the first name my coworker had once given me for the attorney you call when you need the truth, not comfort. At 8 a.m., I called the first name my coworker had once given me for the attorney you call when you need the truth, not comfort. Janice Rowe, Family Law, Columbus. By noon, I was sitting in her office, a neat space with no family photos and no soft lighting, just files, clean lines, and a woman in her late 40s who looked like she had never lost control of a room. Janice read the adoption packet first, flipping pages without expression. Then she read the HELOC printout, the Zelle payments, the East Bridge retainer. When she finally looked up, her voice was steady. "This is serious," she said. "The adoption packet won't go anywhere without your consent, but the forged signature makes it criminal, and the HELOC makes it urgent." "My kids," I said, and it came out rougher than I intended. "She's trying to take my kids." Janice nodded. "She's trying to position you as an obstacle, not a parent. We stopped that with temporary orders, immediately." She outlined steps like she'd done it 100 times. Emergency motion for temporary custody schedule. Restraining order against moving the kids' residence without consent. Financial restraints. No new debt, no transfers. A request for device and account preservation. "And you," she added, "do not confront her again about the boyfriend. Not verbally, not in writing. We document. We don't perform." "Boyfriend," I repeated. "Drew Halstead?" Janice's eyes sharpened. "We'll find out exactly who he is." By the time I got home, a process server was scheduled. Lauren was upstairs packing a suitcase with theatrical aggression. Ethan's door was closed. Chloe's was open with music playing softly, unaware. I found Ethan in the living room, headphones around his neck, eyes wary. "Dad," he said quietly, "Mom said you're mad and you're trying to ruin Thanksgiving." I sat beside him on the couch. "Ethan," I said, "I need you to hear this clearly. I'm not mad at you. I'm mad about adults doing adult things the wrong way." He looked down. "Is Drew—" He stopped, swallowing. Is Drew going to be my new dad? The question hit like a punch. I forced my voice to stay steady. No one replaces your parents, I said. And no one gets to decide your life without you. Ethan blinked hard. Mom says you don't care anymore. My chest tightened. That's not true, I said. I care enough to fight for you the right way, not with yelling, with truth. He nodded slowly, not convinced, but listening. That evening, the process server knocked. Lauren opened the envelope, lips moving as she read. You filed something, she said, voice low. I filed to protect the kids, I replied. Lauren's gaze snapped to me. You're going to traumatize them. No, I said. You are, by telling them I'm being replaced? Her mouth tightened. You're unstable, Mike. You always have been. There it was again, instability, like a label she could stick on me to make the rest of her story easier. 2 days later, Lauren posted on Facebook, public. I hadn't used Facebook in months. I only opened it because my brother texted, "You need to see what she's saying." Lauren's post read like a script. My husband is controlling and financially abusive. He cut off our accounts right before Thanksgiving and is now trying to keep the children from me. I'm doing everything I can to protect them. Please pray for our family. The comments flooded in. So brave, Lauren. Men like that always reveal themselves. Protect those babies. I felt the old instinct to respond, to defend myself, to explain. Janice's voice echoed, "We don't perform." So I did something else. I saved screenshots of Lauren's posts and messages. I saved the adoption packet. I saved the bank documents. Then I emailed 3 people who mattered: my brother, my oldest friend, and Lauren's mother. This is why I acted. I won't argue online. If you need context, it's in these documents. I attached the evidence. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop. The next week moved like slow motion. Janice filed motions. The bank opened a fraud investigation and put a hold on further HELOC draws. And then came the twist that made the adoption papers feel like only the first layer of the lie. Janice's investigator ran a background check on Andrew Drew Halstead. The name didn't match any clean record in Ohio, but it did match a man in Michigan with a similar birth date, a different spelling, and a history of financial judgments. He wasn't a monster. He was worse, in a quieter way. A man who lived off other people's desperation. He'd been sued by a former partner for fraud. He'd had a restraining order from an ex. Not for violence, Janice was clear about that, but for harassment and financial manipulation. Lauren is being played, I said when Janice showed me the report. Janice's face didn't soften. Maybe, she said, or maybe she thinks she's the player. Either way, your children don't become collateral. On the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, Ethan came home quiet. He went straight to his room, then came back downstairs holding his tablet like it was heavy. Dad, he said, voice small, Mom told me to memorize something. I stared. What? He swallowed. She said if anyone asks, I should say, you yell a lot, and you scared me, and Drew makes me feel safe. My vision narrowed. I forced myself to breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth, like Janice had taught me in that first meeting. Thank you for telling me, I said softly. Ethan's eyes filled. Am I in trouble? No, I said immediately. You're not in trouble. You're doing the right thing. I took the tablet and set it on the counter. Then I knelt so I was eye level with him. Ethan, I said, no adult should ever ask you to memorize lines. You're not an actor. You're a kid. He nodded, wiping his face with the heel of his hand. Can I ask something? He whispered. Anything. If a judge asks me, do I have to choose? My chest tightened. No, I said. A judge's job is to keep you safe. You don't have to carry adult choices. That night, I wrote down Ethan's words and emailed them to Janice. No embellishment, no anger, just a child's sentence typed into a document that would matter. Thanksgiving itself was quiet. Lauren didn't go to her sister's. She stayed home, sulking, waiting for the world to notice. The kids and I made pancakes in the morning and turkey in the afternoon. Chloe put too many marshmallows on the sweet potatoes. Ethan laughed when the dog stole a roll. For a few hours, the house felt like what I'd thought marriage was supposed to be: warm, safe, boring. Lauren watched from the doorway like she was outside looking in. The first temporary orders hearing happened in early December. Lauren arrived with perfect hair and a soft voice and a thick stack of papers. She described me as controlling. She said I weaponized money. She said I was emotionally volatile. She mentioned the adoption packet like it was a noble plan to provide stability. Janice didn't interrupt. She let Lauren speak. Then Janice stood and handed the judge a binder. Tab A, the adoption packet with forged consent. Tab B, the bank's fraud hold on the HELOC. Tab C, Zelle payments to Drew Halstead. Tab D, evidence preservation requests. Tab E, Lauren's text messages disinviting me and calling fatherhood something to be earned. The judge's face didn't change much, but his eyes did. When the judge asked Lauren why my signature appeared on an adoption consent I denied signing, Lauren's voice caught, just for a second. Her attorney spoke quickly about drafts and templates. Janice held up the page. "Your Honor," she said, "templates don't include a simulated signature and a dated execution line." The judge ordered full disclosure of all accounts, a prohibition against discussing replacement parent scenarios with the children, and a parenting schedule that kept Ethan and Chloe in their home and school routine. He also ordered Lauren to surrender any documents related to adoption filings and instructed both parties to preserve devices for forensic review. Lauren's face was calm as we left the courtroom. Her hands were shaking. The weeks after the first hearing were a new kind of exhausting, quiet, constant, calculated. Lauren's strategy shifted from direct attacks to interference. Emails to teachers about Ethan being anxious. Calls to Chloe's pediatrician to add a new emergency contact, Drew. Little administrative changes that made our lives feel like a hallway full of tripwires. Then one evening, Ethan came downstairs holding his laptop, face pale. "Dad," he said, "someone messaged me on my game account." The message read, "Hey buddy, it's Drew. I can be your dad soon. Don't worry." I didn't reply. I screenshotted and sent it to Janice. Janice called within minutes. "We're filing a no-contact motion," she said. "This is not acceptable." That night, Ethan stared at the ceiling and whispered, "Are you going to leave?" "No," I said, steady. "I'm right here." At the next status hearing, the judge didn't need theatrics. "Mrs. Carver," he said, "do you understand that coaching a child and facilitating contact from a prospective adoptive parent are inappropriate?" Lauren's face reddened. "I was trying to create stability." "Stability is not manufactured testimony," the judge replied. The court barred Drew Halstead from contacting Ethan and Chloe in any way and warned Lauren that further interference could trigger sanctions. Afterward, Lauren hissed in the hallway, "I can still make you look bad." "Only if I give you material," I said. In January, the bank's fraud team confirmed what the paperwork had been screaming all along. The HELOC was opened through devices tied to our household, without my authorization. The account was frozen, liability shifted, and the bank issued a formal fraud determination letter that Janice slid into our binder like a final nail. Drew vanished after that. No showdown, no apology, just silence. People like him don't fight receipts. They find easier targets. Lauren tried once more to revive the adoption plan with a notary signing session, parental rights relinquishment, scheduled through our shared email. Janice shut it down fast. The notary was notified, the appointment canceled, and the email became Exhibit F. By spring, Lauren's public narrative had holes big enough that even casual friends stopped applauding. Court was private. Social opinion was the mirror she couldn't control. When the final settlement conference arrived in April, she looked smaller, still angry, but less certain. Janice asked me once more in the hallway. "End it?" "Yes," I said. So we ended it. That night she texted me from upstairs. "You're doing this to hurt me. The kids will remember." I didn't answer. Instead, I walked down the hall, knocked gently on Ethan's door, and asked if he wanted to play a game of cards. He did. Over the next month, the truth continued to leak out, because lies are expensive to maintain. The bank confirmed my signature on the HELOC did not match their authentication logs. They traced the device used to the kitchen iPad that Lauren insisted stayed logged into our shared email for convenience. Convenience had become a weapon. The HELOC draws had gone to pay Eastbridge Family Law, to pay the lease for a downtown apartment I'd never seen, and to cover travel expenses that included a hotel receipt with 2 names on it: Lauren Carver, Andrew Halstead. Lauren had not only planned to rewrite my fatherhood, she had financed the rewrite by borrowing against our house in my name. When Janice presented the forensic findings in January, Lauren's narrative collapsed in slow motion. She didn't cry on cue anymore. She got angry. She claimed I hacked her. She claimed the iPad must have been compromised. She claimed Drew was only a friend helping her escape. The judge listened, then asked one quiet question. If he was only a friend, why was he listed as prospective adoptive parent? Lauren didn't have an answer that fit the paperwork. Drew Halstead disappeared soon after. His phone number stopped answering. His social media went dark. The downtown apartment lease was terminated early. Lauren moved into her sister's guest room and began telling anyone who would listen that I kicked her out. I didn't correct her publicly. I didn't need to. In March, the court-appointed child specialist met with Ethan and Chloe. Ethan told the specialist, in his careful, honest way, that he didn't want to choose, and he didn't want scripts. Chloe said she wanted her stuffed animals to stay at our house because that's where her bed was. Kids cut through adults' nonsense with simple needs. The final settlement conference happened in April. Janice asked me in a private hallway, "Do you want to burn her down or end this?" I thought about Ethan's face when he asked if he'd have to choose. I thought about Chloe's marshmallow smile. "I want it to end," I said. So we ended it. The final orders did 3 things that mattered most. First, the children's primary residence stayed with me during school weeks, with clear, protected parenting time for Lauren on weekends. Second, all child expenses would be paid directly through structured channels: school, healthcare, activities. No cash transfers, no ambiguity. Third, Lauren agreed in writing to withdraw any adoption-related inquiries and to refrain from introducing romantic partners to the children as parental figures without a court-approved transition plan. The adoption packet became what it should have been from the start: paper, nothing more. The bank's fraud case didn't disappear. Lauren faced consequences there, separate from our divorce. Janice advised me not to chase additional civil penalties beyond what was necessary. "You've made your point," she said. "Don't make revenge your new hobby." I didn't want revenge. I wanted quiet. In late August, Ethan asked me something while we were grilling burgers in the backyard. "Dad," he said, flipping the patty with too much confidence, "why didn't you yell at Mom when you found the papers?" I stared at the grill smoke for a moment, choosing words that wouldn't make him carry adult guilt. "Because yelling doesn't protect you," I said. "Paperwork does. Truth does." Ethan nodded, thoughtful. "So you won with documents?" I smiled despite myself. "Something like that." Chloe ran through the yard with the dog, screaming happily, the kind of sound that makes neighbors smile instead of complain. That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table where it had all started: the scanner, the papers, the signature that wasn't mine. I opened a folder on my laptop labeled Final and looked at the closing documents. Custody schedule. financial restraints, the withdrawal of adoption inquiry, the bank's final fraud determination. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't cinematic. It was solid. And in my life, solid had become the most beautiful word. Lauren emailed me once that fall. Subject: I see it now, Mike. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking to undo anything. I'm asking you to believe I didn't think it would go this far. Drew convinced me it was the only way. I'm sorry. I read it twice. I didn't respond. Not because I hated her, because responding was how she had always pulled me back into the role she wanted. The man who makes her feel forgiven enough to try again. I saved the email in an archive folder. Acknowledgement received. Response unnecessary. Thanksgiving came again the next year. Ethan and Chloe helped me make sweet potatoes with too many marshmallows. Ethan pretended he was too old for it, then ate 2 servings. Chloe made place cards with everyone's names, including the dogs. We went to my brother's house. The table was loud, imperfect, real. On the drive home, Ethan stared out the window and said quietly, "Mom still tells people you were controlling." I glanced at him in the mirror. "Some people need a story to live with what they did," I said. Chloe yawned. "Are we okay?" she asked, half asleep. I reached back and squeezed her hand at the red light. "We're okay," I said. "Because we're safe. Because we tell the truth. Because no one gets to erase you from your own life." The house smelled like leftovers when we got home. The kids went upstairs, sleepy and full. I stood in the kitchen alone for a moment and looked at the scanner. For years, I'd thought love was patience, endurance, paying bills and keeping the peace. But the day my son's adoption packet printed itself into my hands, I learned something sharper. Love is not compliance. Love is boundaries. Love is protecting your children from adult schemes. Love is refusing to sign your life away, especially when someone tries to forge your name. I turned off the lights, went upstairs, and listened outside Ethan's door for a second. Quiet breathing, steady and safe. Then I walked to my own room, closed the door, and let the silence feel like peace. End.